All right, Going Yard softball fans, you asked and we delivered. Not only can you enjoy listening to interviews with some of the biggest names in softball, but you can now enjoy savings from the hottest softball apparel and merchandise store on the net. We are proud to announce our affiliation with Softball Lifestyle 101. You can now save 10% off of your entire order by entering the promo code GYP10 at checkout. That's shirts, hoodies, book bags, jewelry, and much, much more. Visit softballlifestyle101.com and remember to use the promo code GYP10 at checkout for 10% off, and you can find those links in our show notes in bio. Hey, what's up, everyone? In this episode of the Going Yard podcast, we do something a little bit different. We actually did an Instagram Live with Melissa from Softball Lifestyle 101. It's actually the first time we've ever did anything like this in terms of us being interviewed. It was really neat. It was pretty cool. And we're able to see some of the comments and interactions of people coming in. So it's a little bit, from listening from the outside in, if you weren't actually watching the Instagram Live, it might seem a little weird because we're talking about comments that people are posting. But it was so fun, and we're glad we got the opportunity to do it, and hoping we have some new listeners, and that way they're getting all the information that you guys are hearing every single week from these awesome, awesome women that we talk to on a weekly basis. So hope you guys enjoy this one. I know we enjoyed it as well.
Sorry about that, everyone. My goodness.
This is just...
Sorry, the technician here doesn't know what he's doing. All right, we can rock and roll now.
Look at that.
Well, we've been rocking. She's been rock and rolling. We've been standing around trying to figure this out.
Yeah, she's been fielding questions all day long already.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you guys left me out here all by myself.
I know. But, we wore the shirts today. This is actually one of my favorite shirts. I wear it all the time.
It's a nice, comfy shirt for anyone who doesn't own one. You should get one. That's for sure.
Tyler needs to put on his headphones so he doesn't keep interrupting you.
Tyler can't hear me, guys.
All right.
Hi, Tyler. Welcome.
Welcome.
So do you guys want to introduce yourselves? I know who each of you are, but if you guys want to introduce yourselves to everybody here.
Sure. You want to go first, Tyler? Go ahead.
If Dan just told me, everybody, I'm Tyler Elliott, part of the duo, the Going Yard podcast. Softball dads, I've coached some softball. Long-time baseball coach from the high school level all the way down to T-ball. And that's about it. I mean, got two daughters. One played softball. One was a competitive cheerleader. Son, travel baseball player, and a wrestler now. So that's about my life story in a nutshell. How about you, Mr. Bateman?
Well, my name's Dan Bateman, and I'm from Hanover, Pennsylvania, snack food capital of the world. But I played baseball all the way up through high school. Ended up getting injured in high school and didn't go back to play, but have been a huge baseball fan my entire life, and ended up having a daughter who is great at playing fast pitch softball. She's turning 11 this year. Tyler and our daughters play on the same team. And it's just been fantastic watching it. And I also have a son who is 6, just turned 6 yesterday, and he is one heck of a baseball player and a wrestler. So,
oh, happy birthday, Owen.
Yeah, it's weird. He turned 6, and all of a sudden he's a grown-up.
Well, that's a very mature age.
He even looks taller.
He does.
That typically happens at 6. You shoot on up. So... here's a question that I'm just going to start off with because I think that it's perfect for you two. Which do you guys think is harder, softball or baseball?
In terms of coaching or playing, because I can tell you that if I were ever to have to go up against one of the even high school pitchers in softball, I think I'd whiff. I mean, that ball comes in so quick. We have there's actually a girl who pitches on our girls tournament team, and that ball just whips down the plate, and I feel sorry for the girls that have to go against her. In terms of the sports and coaching it, there's a lot of similarities with baseball and softball, but that's kind of the reason why we started the podcast with the softball part of it. Because there's a lot of stuff that even though Tyler and I played and Tyler's coached baseball, we don't know everything. And that's kind of why we wanted to dig into the minds of some of these great athletes that we've talked to over the past year.
Yeah, I would say there's probably not too many things that are harder than hitting fast pitch softball pitching. Honestly, I mean, when you watch it at the highest levels, it is definitely on par, if not at the same level as Major League Baseball and the challenges that it presents. I mean, the skill, the accuracy, the precision, it's unmatched, honestly. I mean, and they're on top of you. I mean, you take somebody like Monica Abbott, she's 6'3" and pitching from 40 some feet away. When she comes off that rubber, she's cutting it down to under 40 feet. And when she lets go of it, I mean, you've got to be ready to go. I mean, there's no denying the difficulties in it. I mean, Division I college softball players just watching the tournament over the weekend. These girls, and not only the speed of it, but the deception of the rise balls, of the changeups. I mean, some of them are just filthy, and it just only seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not just where there's one or two. There's all Americans across the country that are impressive to see every time you turn the TV on anymore.
Yeah, so actually you said something that I thought was really interesting, and you said you started the softball side of the podcast because you guys know so much about baseball, but softball is something where you really wanted to dive deeper into. So can you guys talk a little bit more about kind of your softball side of the podcast, where you really feel as though like the strengths in that have come in and what you've learned from it, especially like implementing it into your kids' lives?
Yeah, if you don't mind me starting, I think for us, well, first we want to thank you because you were actually our first softball interview, and you kind of put us in the softball stratosphere, at least to get people to realize that, hey, these people are talking about softball. So we appreciate that, and you've really helped us, get some really good guests on our show as well. But what I've learned is because when I was thinking, man, we're going to have these softball players on, and I don't even know what to ask them because I don't play softball, and I don't coach softball myself. Tyler's done coaching for baseball and softball, but for me, I was like, I don't know how I can relate to them. But the one thing I found out is an athlete is an athlete, and when you get into the mind of an athlete, so much comes out. And so much, the part I'm learning a lot about softball is there's so many things on the baseball side that, we just take for granted as guys, just because, there's this path that we could go and play Major League Baseball and make millions of dollars and all this stuff. And, all these different opportunities out there. And we're finding that, talking to these girls, they know that there's not too far that they can go. So they're going to make the most of it now. And they all play hard. They play for the love of the game. They're not playing for the money. And that is something that's so big. And the passion just comes out of these young women that we're talking to. And it's really inspiring. And I think that's something for our daughters. That's somebody that they can look up to. Obviously, they'll have their parents to look up to, but when it comes to an athlete, there's someone outside of, this small town of Hanover, Pennsylvania, that they can look at and say, wow, I could be her.
Yeah, no, I mean, and honestly, I mean, to look at it kind of as a dad, what dads out there have 6, 7, 8-year-old daughters that are stuck between t-ball and fast pitch softball? And where is good information? Where's valuable information to help their daughter get better and be successful? I mean, I know personally my daughter started playing travel tournament softball as an 8-year-old on a 10U team. And it was a eye-opening experience for me. So, I taught her a lot of things that I knew that translated from one sport to the other. But the specifics of it were some things like, I didn't have a full knowledge of. And we jumped into this in seeking knowledge of being that person, listening on the other end of it. What questions would they have? What questions do they want to know? When should I start doing this with my daughter? When's a good time to teach slap hitting? When's a good time to start teaching rise ball? I mean, all of these intricacies that are different from baseball that are sport specific to softball. When are good times to start doing that? And how should I learn it? Is it proper form? I mean, obviously form through a podcast isn't easy to get out, but getting these people that have some of their drill libraries up and just giving people access to the information is huge, because without good information, it's hard to make progress.
Yeah, and the other thing too that I was glad that we dive into on our shows is the mental aspect of the game. That's huge because whether it's baseball or softball, it's a game of failure. You're going to fail more than you're going to succeed in it. And those who are able to take that, learn from it, and move forward, those are the ones that end up progressing into their careers. And, even if they don't make it to the professional level, they end up being amazing coaches. I think that's huge. The mental part of the game really keeps it shows who the big stars are, whether they make it professionally or not. Like it makes them shine brighter, and it gets them through to the next level.
But that mental thing, you could tell when we talked to them how much they use that mental to transition into their school life, or that they used into their school life, or into their professional careers now, and their side hustles that all these softball players are doing to make ends meet. I mean, it's phenomenal, honestly, some of the answers we get from these athletes.
I think that was one of the things that kind of we first connected on, and one of the things that I really took into consideration when I was starting Softball Lifestyle with Josh from Baseball Lifestyle. And our first interview, I think you were interviewing me for Baseball Lifestyle, so I think it was supposed to be a baseball interview.
Right.
Yes.
And when I started Softball Lifestyle with Josh, one of the things was there's so much information out there, and it's so hard for a parent, especially like a softball dad or a softball mom especially for a softball dad who never played softball but played baseball. And so your knowledge, you're trying to translate it, but it's a little bit more difficult to translate one sport to another, even though they seem like pretty easy to translate. And how do you sort through all of this information out there to find what's great? And I think that's what you guys have done so well, is that when you get these pro players on your podcast, or these coaches, these high-level coaches on your podcast, you're able to help people make decisions for themselves with more information than just what's flashy and put out there on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. And the other thing is too, we're not always talking about the game either. And we just had a good conversation with Tori Vidalis, and she had just mentioned about, when she talks to girls, when she has these clinics that she's out there with a couple other professional players, they make sure that they know, like Instagram, for example, how to make yourself presentable on Instagram and not be looked at as a negative connotation. I mean, there's kids that are being looked at, ninth grade because they're so good at their talent. Don't think that these scouts aren't looking at your Instagram and, seeing how you are as a person. Are you a person that's posting things that shouldn't be on there? So it goes way past the softball aspect of it. It comes into the personal and professional life as well, and how you are perceived from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, and for any 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old girl listening to this live right now, I mean, so many of the players that we've talked to, they're recruited from recruiters at 8th grade, 9th grade. They're 13, 14, 15 years old, asking you to make a decision about the rest of your life and where you're going to go spend 4 years after you graduate high school. And we dive so much into off the field information. Actually, it's more than just becoming a better player. It's about becoming a better human being, a better teammate, a better sister, a better whatever. And some of that information you're not going to find on a 60-second Instagram post. You know what I mean? So that's what I think is so valuable about what we're getting out of the guests we talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things you just said was social media for, younger players who are maybe in high school. How do you two manage your daughters and your sons with social media and what they're allowed to put out there? And do you monitor it? Do you have rules? Do you have open discussions? Like, what do you think the best way that you two go about that is?
I'll let you take that one.
When it comes to social media, my daughter is huge into this TikTok thing. That's all the rage, I guess.
I don't know what that is.
It's some dance mix mash music video thing. So I'm not fully versed in all that she's doing on it, but I mean, I have participated in a few of the videos. Actually, Dan, I'm surprised you and your daughter, as talented as you two are, don't do some of this.
All right, I guess I'm gonna do it.
But-
To me.
But no, I think I've pushed a positive, thing for her about following positive people mainly. And, it's not just about following anybody and everybody, but follow positive people that are going to give you a positive message and things that you can take. To me, the whole devices, like I got an iPad here, I got a phone next to me. I mean, we got a computer in front of us. All these things are great if you use them for productivity. When you start just using them for mindless activities and things like that, I think that you kind of get lost in the power of it. And I think that's where you get sucked into how many likes did I get? How many shares did I get? How many people, left a comment? I mean, just know that whatever you put out there, somebody will always find it, no matter what. And if you don't think so, you're fooling yourself, because it'll come up. It happens to professional athletes. It can happen to you.
Yep,
and if
it's
somebody,
happening right now.
it happens all the time. So, do I monitor it as a dad? I try my best. You know what I mean? And obviously, if I see something that I don't like that she puts up, then I tell her she needs to get rid of it usually. But generally, she kind of knows where I stand on it and doesn't push the issue too much, thank goodness. So, and every parent has it differently. Some don't care, some do care. But just know that your social media account is like your journal that you're just publishing to the world. It's people write memoirs when you get older. Well, you teenage kids are writing your memoir as you go about your life, as you post things. And, it's definitely different across the board for how people handle it. I don't know if there's any specific right way or wrong way, but that's how we handle it, Dan. I don't know how in your household you handle most of it.
Well, my daughter doesn't have an Instagram account quite yet, but, the thing, if I were to like push her to, like, if she wanted to do social media, in the next few years or whatever, I think I would probably go towards the Instagram part of it, because Facebook is filled with drama. I mean, there's drama on Instagram as well, but it's easy to swipe right past. Not right. It doesn't seem like it's quite in your face all the time. And, you can follow inspiring people on Instagram, and it's so much easier to look at this stuff just because you just go to their page and look at everything. It's right there. So I like what you had said about that. But that's the thing. Like, I'm a goofball. Melissa, you know this. I'm a musician, so I have a lot of videos out there myself on my YouTube page. I make goofy videos all the time, so my kids know that I'm not shy when it comes to the camera. I do some crazy stuff, but I also do things I don't ever put anything online that if someone would look at it years later, they would say, man, I can't believe you did that. Like, because like mine's all either in good fun or it's a talent I have, whether it's singing, playing guitar, whatever it is.
I can tell you personally, but there's two of us here, and this is our podcast, and we both have our name on it. So generally, anything that gets posted, if it's something, we always reach out to each other. Hey, do you like this? Yeah, we're good with that. We both agree on the content that we're putting out there, and
right.
As partners in this and as dads, I think that's huge, and I think moms and dads need to have that same feeling together. You know what I mean? Whatever your kid's doing, you both got to be on board with it. You can't have one parent that thinks one way or the other, because I think that's going to cause a problem no matter what you're doing, honestly.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think it's definitely different. Like, when I was in high school and college, it was really just social media was just really becoming very popular. And I was seeing it start to impact the lives of my friends who were looking for jobs. And now I'm seeing it with some of my younger friends who are maybe having trouble with the things that they have on their social media accounts, and they're applying to college or they're being scouted. And there's this huge scramble to like delete things and make your accounts private. And it's like, if you feel like you don't want a college coach to see it, think about it before you put it up.
Yep.
Because somebody will find it. And no matter how private your page is, like, and I'm not trying to sound scary here, but like, no matter how private your page is, people really will find it.
But you're being
And-
truthful. I mean, that's, there's a difference between being scary and being truthful.
And actually, I got a quote. I'm gonna. It's not a direct quote, but we were talking to Brianna Cherry, and she was talking a lot about. We had asked her about the social media aspect of it, and she has said, "Make your presence known on and off the field, but make sure it's something that you want people to notice." So, that's in a nutshell. It's really good advice.
Yeah.
However you look at that. I mean, you can make your presence known, and it could be a negative way, and it could be a positive way. So pick the positive way. It's easier that way. You don't have to worry about deleting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just brought up Brianna Cherry, who is probably one of my favorite people, if not just favorite softball players, but I just love her. I think she's absolutely amazing. She's so funny and just such a sweet girl. So who are some of your favorite softball interviews?
Well, I have a list here of my top ones, but the very first interview we had with a softball player, it was Megan King, and it was shortly after they had won. Florida State had won the College World Series, and my daughter and Tyler's daughter, they were sitting watching the interview, and not the interview, the game, and they were just locked in on this girl pitching, and she was throwing lights out the whole series. And as soon as we were finished with that, like, we were so pumped watching that. That was actually the first beginning to end World Series I've watched. I got caught games here and there, always catch the last game, but I never sat and watched the whole thing. And that was the first time I've ever done that. And I was so pumped by it. I was like, Tyler, we should reach out to her.
Yep.
And I remember I was at work or something like that, and I was just like, I'm doing it. And I ended up doing it, and she responded like a week later, and I realized that she was busy, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But we ended up getting her on the show, and I remember our girls were so excited. And before the podcast started, our girls had about 10 minutes to talk to her and ask her whatever they wanted.
And that video is on our IGTV right now, actually. I put it up before Dan. I put it up earlier, before I left to come here to do this interview. And that interview with the girls is on our IGTV for anybody who wants to hear it. It's probably one of the coolest things we've done this podcast. Not to interrupt you, Dan.
No, it's okay. But they actually wrote down all the questions they wanted to ask. So it wasn't something where we were like, hey, why don't you ask her this question? That was really cool. I thought that was awesome. And then another quick story. We had put a podcast out one time. Actually, I think it was someone responding to Megan King's interview, because they saw, like, wow, these guys are doing softball now. And a friend of ours tagged this lady. I'm not going to say the name, the account name it said, but it tagged this lady and said, you should get her on the show. And I was like, all right, cool, and I didn't recognize the name, didn't look familiar to me at all. And so we end up asking her for some information on the stuff. She sends us a link, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute, is this Kat Osterman? Are you kidding me? Because her private name, it is not Kat Osterman. So I was like, I don't know who this woman is. And then to come to find out, I didn't realize it until the day we were interviewing her that we were talking to Kat Osterman. I was like, wait a minute, this is crazy. And that was so neat. Plenty of other interviews we had that were awesome, but those two right there were the top two that I like. That experience was so neat to us.
How dare you not say Melissa's interview, jerk?
Well, we did
What
say
was
softball players, because I was going to say, if I'm not your favorite softball interview, I really do have a bone to pick with both of you.
Well, technically, this is our first softball interview with you, so
No, it's my first softball interview with you. I'm interviewing you.
this is true.
So I'll tell
I'm
you,
asking the questions.
one of my favorite podcasts, and one that I was so excited to get to do, was with Alex Powers, honestly. Just because I had seen some stuff and some information out there before we ever reached out to her. This woman overcame 2 ACL surgeries in less than 12 months, in like 10 months, I believe. While in college, family member passed away, all in the same time. I mean, if that's not adversity in your life that could push you to walk away from something, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So to hear her tell that a little bit, and we didn't go fully in. I mean, we probably could have spent a whole podcast talking to her about that instance in her life. So that was, to me, just the true redemption to come back from that and not only come back from it, but be successful and continue her success and inspire young women to never give up. And honestly, to hear her even talk about the challenges she has as a 20-year-old from double ACL surgery and how running hurts and how she does cycling. I mean, it's very interesting to me how she did that. And then another one of my favorite softball interviews, honestly, was with I'm drawing a blank here. Morgan Stewart, just because of so much of what she's done and an impact with the package deal and how big that whole thing has become, and her story from Washington and winning a national title, and that was a lot of fun to get to talk to her, just because of all the travel. She's not just a coach of a local area. I mean, traveling around the country and seeing the game from many different perspectives to me was very interesting, honestly, and to see her have so much success outside of the game. And when I say outside of the game, not just being a coach at a college being successful, but a coach of a business and, running a professional business and doing her own private lessons. And those were two of my favorites, honestly.
Yeah, and Morgan also had a similar conversation with us like we had with Brianna, but she had mentioned one of the things that she had quoted is, "Who are you when no one's watching?" That's another huge thing. It's kind of like what Brianna had said, but in a different way, and that's huge. And whether that's who are you when no one's watching as an athlete? Are you practicing when no one else is, when everyone's home playing Xbox, or also your life outside of softball?
And one other quick one here is Sierra Romero.
Oh my gosh,
this woman is probably one of the best players to ever play college softball.
Mm-hmm.
But she plays professionally on the Pride team. She's coaching now at Oregon.
Yep.
Her family lives in California. She lives in Florida. I mean, she's all over the place. And she said she absolutely loves the grind. She loves it. She embraces it. She takes every bit of it in. And to me, I found that so inspiring because it's like Dan said earlier. These girls are doing everything they can to provide the best life for themselves without making millions of dollars. But she is phenomenal in everything that she does, and her work ethic is undeniable. I mean, no matter what she was doing in life, she's going to be successful, and that's what I meant about earlier about how these things translate not just on the field but into the rest of your life.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I loved what you were saying before with side hustles, and I was thinking about a lot of the best interviews you guys have had, and a lot of the best ones that I've had were all with players who have some kind of business on the side or their main business that is still in softball, and it's just finding a way to help further your career in softball, even if it's not still playing.
Right.
And that's always something that I think a lot of people feel like they have to play professionally or they need to be playing in order to keep softball in their lives, but they don't. You can find different ways to keep softball in your life, and I think a lot of these players definitely show that. You okay there, Tyler?
Yeah, his headphones are acting up. But just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, a lot of almost every single one of these players that we talk to, we always ask the question, when did you get into coaching? And it's always the same answer, but I like asking it just because I just wanted to see if there's any change anywhere. But all of them started in high school. So like everyone that's listening here, if you're 12, 13 years old, within a couple of years, you could be teaching somebody to do what you're doing right now. You may be already even doing it, but what's really awesome about it, hey, Fearless Fast Fit.
I'll say Amanda. Shout out to Amanda. She was fantastic. Love her.
Yeah. But you're going to get to a point where, you have something you can share with somebody and you actually get better by teaching someone to do it as well, which is kind of cool because you kind of pick up on some of the nuances you didn't realize until you started showing somebody how to do it.
We've helped Melissa perfect her profession then.
I owe everything I am to you too.
Yeah, actually, a little shout out to Amanda. One of the things she had talked about is positive self-talk practice. And also like because she had suffered through an injury herself, and that can take a toll on you. And no matter what, like positive self-talk, that's a huge thing. So not to be off topic here, but that's another huge thing, and a lot of these players talk about too. The more practice you put in, it's kind of like if you're at bat, you're putting in the practice, taking these swings off the tee, or you're doing soft toss, or you're just practicing your swing in your bedroom. You do that to make yourself better, so when you're up at the plate, you know how to handle different situations. Well, you should do the same thing with your mind too, and mentally. And positive self-talk, it sounds all woo-woo and all that stuff, but what you tell yourself is what your mind believes. And, that positive self-talk is really going to put you forward. So I thought that was awesome. So thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, you can always go off topic for Amanda from Fearless Fast Pitch. She's one of my favorite people I think I've ever met in the softball world. I actually met her in person in Omaha during the College World Series, and I just immediately knew I liked her because from 15 feet away, she was just like, "Oh, hey, it's so good to meet you." And I was like, "Where's that coming from?"
That would be Dan. Dan would do that.
I would do that.
Well, I would kind of know where it was coming from there. I'd never actually seen Amanda until that point in time. So it was just really funny, and it was really great. And you can always interrupt for her because I think she does a lot in terms of especially teaching young softball players how to be mentally strong.
Yep. And also one more thing, and it had to do with the coaching and starting coaching. It was Chelsea Bramlett from VRM Sports. We were talking to her. It was cool. This girl's played on the national team. She played college softball as well. And, she has an opportunity. She could probably coach in college going in the future. But she loves working with high school girls, and it's just because she's got them at this age, this perfect age where she can develop them to be better going forward. And I thought that was pretty cool. So everyone that's listening that's in high school right now, don't second guess yourself when it comes to, hey, maybe I could teach someone how to do this, because start it now. And that way, down the road, even if you're playing professional softball, you could have your own BRAM Sports and sell a product that helps you or that you were created to help somebody else, so that side hustle, there's always something. Keep your mind sharp and keep it moving within the sport that you know all about.
Are you the coach here?
Sorry.
I'm just picking on you. Sound like a coach, man. I like it.
Hey, you know what? I listen to all these coaches we talk to every single week.
You'll
It's
be,
starting
you'll
to
be
rub
coaching,
off on me.
You'll be coaching 6-year-old T-ball before you know it, buddy.
Listen, I don't think I could do that. Oh, my gosh.
So now Amanda is teaming up with me to gang up on you two. So now that you guys are in the hot seat, let's flip the table and ask questions about you guys. Why do you guys do what you do? What's your why?
My why is for my family and for my kids. I mean, that's my why. It's the reason I wake up every single morning and try to be a healthy person as well. Just because I want to be around here for a long time, and I, doing this right here, this is my side hustle, and I would eventually loved it to be my only hustle, and then create other side hustles on the side of that. But that's my vision, is just so I could spend more time with my family and not be trapped behind the wheel of my car 6 to 8 hours a day.
For people who don't know, Dan is one of the most talented people I've ever, probably the most talented person I ever met in my life, honestly. And immediately when we connected and became friends, it was inevitable that we would do something, I think, together, honestly. And, my why in doing this podcast is the same as it was as being a high school coach, as being when I started coaching my son's team when he was 4 years old. And, I absolutely love the relationships that I've built, the kids that I've gotten to meet. I've always said that the kids that I've got to coach have given me way more than I have ever given them. I'm not a teacher, so I'm not when I would coach high school ball, I wasn't a teacher. I wasn't I didn't have to grade their math test or their English paper. I just showed up and coached baseball. So I had a great relationship that they could talk to me about anything that was going on at school that wasn't, I wasn't the one that gave them lunch detention when they did something stupid, So I've always gotten way more from the kids that I've worked with than I've ever given them. Even, through the years and seeing them sign and go off to college and come back and, help us run a clinic as a high school, or watching some of your players go join the Navy or join the Army or become a police officer. That's my why, honestly, and why I do this, and my family's allowed me to do it, and I've always been a part of coaching. I don't think I'll ever get away from it, no matter how old my kids get. And this is just an extension to me, honestly, of my coaching. My kids are getting older now. I don't have the time to coach high school baseball. So this is an extension of that. And thank God for my family's support in doing it, and Dan's support, Dan's family. Honestly, we do this at Dan's house. So if it weren't for his kids and his wife's support, this would be a real headache for everybody. But thank God we have the relationships we do. And, it's growing every week. We love it. We absolutely can't wait to get in here and talk to our guests and talk to you, Melissa, on a weekly basis and just watch it grow and watch what others are doing, because it's so much fun, honestly. The Instagram community, softball community, thank God they opened us with open arms, Dan, because I don't know what we'd be doing if we weren't doing softball interviews just as much as baseball.
Well, just to jump on that real quick.
Hi, McKenna. Sorry.
Hi, McKenna.
Hi, McKenna. Just to jump on that, our softball, our baseball following is fantastic. They've been with us from the beginning. But once the softball hit, it was just this consistency, and that was coming back. We'd have more and more softball fans coming back. And we have every single episode, we have people reaching out to us saying, hey, if next time you have a pitcher on, can you ask them this? So we're encouraging that, hey, McKenna, you have a question, then make sure you ask that before next week. We'll ask the next player that we interview your question. But that's helpful, because we only put out what we think that people will want to hear. So let's hear what you want to hear. Help us know, like, hey, what are you having trouble with? What do you want us to ask one of these pros or one of these coaches? Because that makes our jobs easier, and it gives you guys the content that you want. I love it. It's fantastic. And I always hear major league players and even professional softball players that we talk to, they're getting paid to play a kid's game. And, inside, I don't want to grow up, and I want to keep, playing a kid's game, even though I can't do it anymore. This is close enough for me. So this is awesome. That's why I want to do it.
Just to interrupt you guys for a second. Hi, Sylvie. Hi,
Oh, Lordy. Hey, Vanessa. I saw Vanessa's name pop up. So
yeah, I saw Vanessa too. Hi, Vanessa. So when you guys talked about basically taking contributions from people in terms of what they want to hear, and that was a huge reason why I asked you guys here today, because I've definitely noticed over time how many softball dads are sending me messages asking me what they can do to get their kids better, how they can be more supportive as a softball dad. And just, it's been one of the more exciting things to see in terms of softball lifestyle, where before it was softball players who were so excited to see the sport being represented. Now it's dads who are like, hey, how do I get involved with my kids? Mm-hmm. And I think you two are softball dads who are so involved with softball in general. I don't know any other softball dad who's talking to pro players on a weekly basis. And it started off as, hey, my daughter saw a pitcher during the College World Series and she loved her. So how do we get this to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and honestly, for all the softball dads that may hear this or have a daughter who hear this, if you can, just be supportive of your daughter and get them the best information you can, because you may think you know it all, but you probably don't, because you haven't done it. There are a few guys that have played pro fast pitch, as in Nairi White's dad. We talked to Nairi and she talked about learning from her dad. You know what I mean? There are some guys out there, but that pool of people is much smaller than, baseball players. So, if you're a dad out there, be supportive of your daughter. They're going to go through their ups and downs. They're going to, take things differently than your son would if you had a son. You can't treat everything the same. And on the other side of that, if you're a daughter, make your dad get out there and play catch with you. Make him do things. Make him do soft toss with you. Be relentless on your dad. Don't let your dad be lazy and just come home from work and sit down and eat dinner or whatever. Make your dad do some work with you. It's okay to get your dad out there and show him what's up.
Yeah, and dads, I know how it is to be a dad, and I know what being stubborn and having an ego feels like. It's okay to not know the answer when it comes to softball. But the good news is there is a way to find it. And whether it's our podcast or you find one of these awesome players that we talk to on a weekly basis. But yeah, let your guard down. If you don't know the answer, if you think what you're showing her is exactly what she needs to hear, then fine. But it's okay to double check just to make sure you're not giving her the wrong information. But yeah, it's there's tons of information out there, but you really want to check your sources. And for those who maybe can't get dad off the couch or whatever, the great news is you probably have a wall in your backyard. Throw the ball at your wall and take ground balls. Work on your ground balls that way. Or throw the ball up in the air, work on your pop flies, or go get a tee or some of those smush balls that don't fly too far. Work with those. There's always something you can do to make yourself better. I know not everybody has the same opportunities as everyone else. But there's always a way. I mean, I used to stand in my backyard and throw rocks up and hit them into the cornfield. My mom would be so mad because they were like these expensive river rocks. But that was my way of
It wasn't the bat.
practicing.
It wasn't the bat you destroyed. It was the rocks.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I have one of my bats from growing up hanging behind me here, and that's not one of them. I was looking to see if that was the one with all the holes in the bat.
Kudos, yeah. Shout out to all the moms out there practicing with their daughters as well. There's a lot of moms out there taking, balls off the shins, trying to catch bullpens with their daughters who don't know how to pitch quite yet. Shout out to all the moms. I mean, I know my wife has caught bullpens at pitching lessons for my daughter, and she's kind of to the point now when she does do those that my wife's kind of cried uncle and takes her son along to catch for him.
Yeah, and I will say I do have a lot of help when it comes to the softball side at home. My wife was an incredible center fielder.
She was better than you.
Yeah, we both played center field, but she's one of those just natural athletes, and she's an amazing hitter. Her and I were on a co-ed team at one time, and I'm like, I don't feel like playing with her anymore. But she's really good, so she's able to pick up where I slack or lack in terms of softball. So I will say that. So I can't really say that I just don't know what to tell my daughter because I got my wife here to help me out too. But, I had to say that. Give her a shout out, Diana.
Yeah, we definitely need to get both of your wives on here at some point too.
Yeah.
They deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, and McKenna, you can send me a DM and I will absolutely follow you. I just don't want to lose
McKenna,
your
same.
username.
We'll do the same.
I just don't want to lose your username when I sign off of this. But we do have some really exciting news. And kind of our last thing of the night is the guys from Going Yard are being very generous and awesome. And they will be working with us to give away an Alex Powers signed softball, which I believe Tyler is getting up to get, or
That's what he's getting.
Done with this.
Yeah, he's done with his headphones. He's just like, I'm tired of putting batteries in these things. Yep, he's getting the ball right now.
And of course, Vanessa, just shoot me a DM, and I absolutely will.
Yeah, so we went and Alex was doing a clinic right down the road from where we live, and we stopped in and we're doing we were watching her coach. She was working with a 10U team, and then right after that there was the middle school and high school girls came in after that, and just watching her coach, it was awesome. What's great about Alex is obviously nice girl, but she gets to business. She gets down to business when it comes to coaching, and that was cool to see. And she's not there to waste time. She's not there to waste the girls that she's coaching their time either. She wants to make sure they're getting everything they possibly can out of it. And we thought that was really cool. But she was gracious enough to sign a couple balls for us. And Tyler's searching for them right now.
Okay.
But I swear we have two of them. Just take us for granted that we have these balls somewhere.
Dan, would you like to sing our jingle? Well,
How did that jingle go? Why don't you
I'm not going to sing it to you. You know how it went.
hold on.
It's my favorite jingle in the whole
It's
world. Now I
rearranged
have
in
to
the
watch it
studio,
being
so.
done live.
But I believe I had like this real cheesy voice. I was talking like this, right? It was like one of
Yeah,
those
it
voices.
was like a really bad, like 1950s cartoon
Yeah, it was like-
jingle.
If you like to play ball and have some fun, then come over to Softball Lifestyle 101.
That's what it
something
was.
like that. Yeah,
That's
something
what
like
it
that.
That's perfect.
I love the jingle.
That was more just like a sales pitch over the radio in 1942.
I appreciate it. And yes, McKenna, that's totally fine.
Yeah, so we have the ball. I think it might be out in the.
We did some rearranging, so we
Yeah.
apologize. We cleaned off the podcast table to change it up and do things a little differently in the studio. So I'm blaming Dan, honestly. I put the effort in to find it, and he didn't do anything.
As long as I'm not being blamed.
That's fine.
Not this time.
Not this
So,
time.
Tyler, your
I'm sure
wife's
there's
laughing
something
at
else,
you.
but not that. And we'll post pictures of them to
Yeah.
prove that they really do have them.
We really do. That's so funny. What did we do? They're in this house.
They didn't leave this room.
They're in a box.
Yeah.
And they're
How many
safe.
boxes
Still-
are in the room?
I put them back in the wrapper, too. That's how, like, protective I was of it.
Well, at least they're safe wherever they are.
Oh my god.
And Dan's dog couldn't chew it because his mouth is a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
He would, like, chew golf balls, not softballs.
My dog's the size of my head.
I mean, Sheldon's not very big. That's Sheldon.
Hey, Sheldon.
Ellie.
He does some damage though, and he's not very big.
I can only imagine.
So we will definitely be posting photos of. They're not in there either.
No. Hey, shout out Chelsea Bramlett. B-Ram Sports is on.
Hi, Chelsea and/or Stephanie.
Yeah.
I was talking about you earlier.
Yes, he was. All good things. All good things. Well, we definitely do need Nico and Sheldon to have their own podcast at some point.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it so much. And I'm so excited for the giveaway. So be sure to tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday
That's right.
for the photographic evidence that the guys from the podcast do, in fact, possess a signed Alex Power softball.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And make sure you let us know, like I said, questions and also who you'd like us to have on the show. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and guys, if you ever have any questions that you want them to answer, you could always DM them to them or to me, and I'll make sure they get them. But thank you guys for being here.
Yep, definitely. And for everybody listening to this, every Tuesday generally is when our softball podcasts come out. So you can find them on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, Google Play. Check out some of the videos that we put up here on our Instagram page or even on our YouTube page if you want. But every Tuesday is when you can find our softball information coming out.
That's right.
And you should definitely go listen to it because their podcasts are great.
And maybe Melissa will go back and listen to hers.
I'm never going to listen to mine. I told you.
We're going to get a petition together of how many votes we can get to make you listen.
Yeah, let's
I'm
see.
not going to listen to my podcast.
The first person who can DM us and tell us what Melissa's walkout song was, we'll ship them something. We'll ship them a little prize or something.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll contribute to that too if you know what my walkout song was.
Yeah, somebody go back, listen to Melissa's podcast on the Going Yard podcast, and let us know what her walkout song was.
That's the last
Since
question we
James,
ask everybody.
So don't tell them that. Then they can skip to the end.
That's
There's
true.
a lot of really valuable information from the beginning
true.
until then.
That is true. That is true.
The walkout songs are pretty valuable, though. They let a lot of information.
I've changed it, so
Those-
it's not accurate anymore.
Those have been pretty fun. The walkout songs. Those have been great.
What's your new walkout song? What would that be?
It's still Kanye, of course, but it's Monster now.
Monster, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Changing it up on us.
I have to change it up on you guys. Well, what's your walkout? Well, your song. You got to pick your song now. You're in the hot seat. I'm not in the hot seat.
Well, my walkout song, this is just back in my high school football days. One of the songs we used to listen to get pumped up was it was Korn. The song was Blind. Now, because back then Korn was a popular band, but the song's called Blind. And actually, hold on, Tyler's got it right here.
Here's Dan's walkout song real quick before we get out of here.
Can you hear it?
It sounds like a wallet to me.
It's like a heavy rock song.
Yeah, but yeah. So Tyler, what's your walkout song?
All right. So my walkout song was from one of my favorite movies
Oh
growing
yeah,
up.
that's right.
And I'm a huge fan of Tom Cruise, so I figured I would come up off the bench and pinch hit late in the game. And I figured in the game of baseball, all those guys throw so hard, it would be like entering the danger zone.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
this was my walkout jam.
Oh my god.
We might need to do a new
Embarrassing
episode, Dan.
thing. Oh, I do think you need to. I do think Dan needs to sing it.
Here you go, Dan is singing.
I'm not alone in asking this.
Listen, let Kenny Loggins sing it. What's that one? Oh.
I would say like maybe not appropriate.
It's not my choice. It was your choice.
I never said this was a family-friendly walkout choice. This is what I would choose.
Awesome.
This one's family friendly. Promise. It doesn't have an E next to it.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
on that note, good night. I'm sure I'll talk to you guys a little later. But
Thank you. Be safe in the snow, everybody. With the storm coming through the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, everybody be safe traveling around. Sorry we missed the live with Melissa. I wrecked off the road in my Suburban 4-wheel drive and decided to call it a night. So I apologize that we missed the first one. Thank you for having us back on, Melissa. Really appreciate it. Love all your fans and everybody checking it in.
My dad's name is Dan, and he knows that song. Yes, Danny Wallace. All right, see you later.
Soon. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this different episode than you're used to hearing, but thanks for following along and everything that we do. Like I said, Tuesdays is when our softball podcasts come out, so every Tuesday, check and see who we got coming out. Always some great guests. We got a lot of good softball content coming out for the rest of February here and in through the month of March. If there's anybody you want us to get on, make sure you reach out, send us a DM if you got any questions. We'd be love to get them on and ask for you and let you know when we do. That way you can always check back and get the information that you're looking for, hopefully. So for Dan, for Melissa, Softball Lifestyle 101, I'm Tyler, and we appreciate all the time you take to, in on your car rides and in the gym working out or wherever you're at listening to this. So we hope to see you again down the road.